Hi, today we're going to be canning some bone broth, but first I would like to start with a basic look at the different methods of canning. Now, canning is used to kill off any kinds of molds, yeast, enzymes, and bacteria from food to make for safe food storage. Bacteria cannot live in a high acid environment, so foods such as pickles or any kind of jams that have high sugar and either lemon or citric acid added to it, that kind of food can be processed in a boiling water canner. For foods that are low acid, such as vegetables that are being canned in water or broth or anything like that, needs to be processed in a pressure canner. The combination of the pressure and the heat will kill off any possible bacteria. So today with the bone broth, we're going to be using the pressure canner. Okay, now to get started, we've got the bone broth on the stove, so we need to heat that up to boiling, and while that's happening, we will sterilize the bottles and the lids and get those ready to go, and then we'll take a quick look at some of the stuff that you're going to need to have on hand and ready to go. Now let's take a look at some of the tools that you're going to need. You're going to need a ladle to dish out the broth, a funnel to try to make less mess, tongs for your lifting out the jar lids and moving the bottles around, and jar lifters for placing the hot bottles into the canner, and a clean, damp dishcloth for wiping the rims of the bottles. The bone broth is almost at a boil, so we want to get our lids boiling. And you want them boiling in the water for at least 10 minutes to be sterile. And we're also boiling another pot of water to pour into the pressure canner when we're ready to use it. Bottles are in the oven being sterilized. Another thing that's important when you're canning is to make sure that you have everything up to the same temperature. So when you're doing this, you need to be working with hot lids, hot bottles, hot liquid, and a hot canner. If you end up trying to put hot bottles in a canner and pour cold water over it, your bottles are all going to break. So it's important that you have the temperature is uniform across everything that you're using. So now we're going to start ladling the broth into jars, and you want to leave what is called a head space. You want to leave a 1-inch head space, which means you want it to this line here. You have to account for the broth expanding, so you need to make sure that there is enough room left in the top, which is called the head space. Now that our jars are filled, we want to take our damp face cloth and wipe the rims of each of the bottles to ensure that there's nothing on there that's going to prevent it from sealing properly. Next, we're going to put the lids on the bottles, and you want it to be just finger tight barely. So next I'm going to pour some of the boiling water into my canner. With my canner, it needs to have 3 quarts of water. So I've got that boiling on the stove and ready to go, and I'm going to put some of it in the bottom, and then I'll start layering my jars and then top it off after. So we're going to use our jar lifter to pick up the bottles and place them into the canner. Okay, so our canner is fully loaded, so we're just going to put the top on that and get it up to pressure. You can hear the water is boiling away in the pressure canner, and the steam is escaping out of the vent right there. You need to let the steam vent for approximately 10 minutes, which I've done so already. So I will add the weight to the top of that. Now it will start to build up pressure, and we want to get it to approximately 11 psi. Okay, now we've got this up to pressure. We need to start our timer for 20 minutes and try to maintain that pressure by adjusting the temperature on the burner. Okay, time is up, and now we just have to let this depressurize before we can open the lid. I just wanted to point out on my canner and on most canners nowadays, they have some kind of a lock so that when there is still pressure, that will stay up and that keeps the handles locked so it can't open. but you have to make sure that it is totally depressurized before trying to open the canner. So after that cools down, we'll take these babies out of there. So now that the pressure cooker has totally depressurized, I am going to start taking all of the bottles out of the canner. You want to place them onto a towel and have them so that they are not touching one another, and you want to leave them for approximately 24 hours to cool. So everything is out of the canner. As you can see, some of these are still kind of bubbling away. It does take up to about 24 hours for them to cool. And as they're cooling, oftentimes you'll start to hear a pop of the lids as they seal, which I have to say is one of my favorite sounds. So there you go. There is the finished product.